Part 19. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 181. Manbao had dug up the plant. She thought it would be troublesome to take it, so she pulled a large leaf and wrapped it, then tied it with a long grass, and hung it on her small satchel. They don't know when the last plant disappeared, Shiro and the others, but the brothers are used to it. When Manbao was very young, he liked to pull all kinds of flowers and plants as soon as he ran steadily. At first, it was the weeds in the cracks in the stones in front of the door of the house. When he was younger, because Manbao likes to pull plants with flowers the most, Lao Zhutu even showed off happily, believing that she was the reincarnation of the flower fairy. But later, Manbao pulled more flowers and plants, and after not letting go of the tree, the old Zhou stopped talking about it, and the Zhou family had long been accustomed to Manbao's behavior. It was a rare trip to the mountain, so of course Manbao didn't want to leave like this, so everyone went inside while talking, during which she tore off countless flowers and plants, and also grabbed a few ants with her bare hands, which she held happily in her palm. Thursday Lang looked very worried. He felt that the family had to prepare some dowries for her, otherwise it might not be possible for her to get married in the future. As he walked further and further in, the soil under his feet was both hard and soft. Manbao looked at the soft ground with regret. This is all fat. She just started, and Thursday Lang immediately said, "It's impossible for me to come here to dig and carry the soil, it's so far away." Manbao said, "Then let's bring crops to plant here, the soil is very fertile. There are so many birds and animals in the mountains, and they can't eat enough of anything, so I don't bother." Manbao was thinking hard about what to plant that would not be eaten by the birds, but could also be harvested for them, when suddenly Keek's voice sounded in his mind, "Host, please take a walk inside." Manbao subconsciously took a step forward, stared at the ground in front of him, and asked Keek in his head, "Hey, is there no grass in front of you?" "No grass, but trees." Manbao stared at the front, and after a while, blinked again, the big tree in front of him still didn't change. "Yes, this is the tree." "Well, now Manbao can't even pretend to be invisible," she said in her heart, "it's too big, I can't dig it out." It's really big. The place in front of her is quite open, with only a few scattered trees, the largest one of which is the one designated by Keek. The soil around here may be the accumulation and decay of fallen leaves, and the sunlight is good enough, so the soil in this area is much darker and softer than other places. When people step on it, the branches and leaves crunch. Sound. Manbao ran over and hugged the tree, because it was too big, and she couldn't wrap her arms around it. She tried her best to look up and couldn't see the top of the tree. Manbao felt that she just had the ability to dig it out, and she was not able to complete the conditions of the quiet income system required by Keek. So she simply gave up, and then looked left and right, trying to find if there was a smaller tree like it nearby. But unfortunately, because of Keek's training, she is very good at identifying living things, especially plants. She just glanced at it and knew that there is no tree nearby that looks the same as this one, or even a similar tree. "Keek has recovered from the shock," it said, "don't dig. This is a living fossil-level plant, not to mention that it is so huge, it is obviously a lot of years old. If it instigates the host to dig and record it, it can get a huge amount of points, but it will also be punished for violating the rules. The penalty points are all light. If it causes the death of the species, it may be sentenced to imprisonment. Even formatting." Keek said, "As long as the host takes photos and scans all aspects, the environment in which it lives can be recorded. It would be even better if its leaves, branches, and fruits can be collected." Hearing the excitement in its voice, Manbao looked at the tree curiously and asked, "What kind of tree is this, is it amazing?" Keek said, "Although it is not very sure, it should belong to the fir family." After scanning, I speculate that even now, it belongs to the relict species of the metasequoia family. Man Bao understood, that is to say, this tree, even now, belongs to the rare species series, which is very rare. She looked up at it and said, "It's so pitiful, it's the only one left. No relatives, or very few." Standing behind her, Shu Yulang also looked up at the tree and nodded, "Yes, yes, this tree is thick and straight, and I can make a good bed for you in the future." Wu Lang and Saturday Lang also saw it, and they gathered around to take a pat and kick, and they felt that they really got to know each other. Then they peeled off the bark and saw the color inside. "I can make a box or something. Man Bao, when the fifth brother is an adult, I will go to my place to choose a good-looking tree for you, and make a few more boxes for you." Man Bao, who had been taught to protect rare species since he was a child, hugged the tree trunk and said, "No, this is a rare species, we have to protect it." "Yeah, it is protected," said Thursday Lang, "I'll tell Dad when we come back, we'll make a mark on the tree when we come back, but we can't steal it and cut it when you say you want to kiss it." Man Bao, the protection I'm talking about is to protect it from being cut, and to keep it alive. "Then I can't guarantee it," said Thursday Lang, "I'm not a tree lady, how can I guarantee it will live forever? What if it is struck by lightning, what if it dies from drought, and what if it is struck by lightning? What if the insect bites to death? And the tree is used to make beams and furniture. After cutting it down and planting another tree, why should you protect it and keep it alive? Because it's a rare species?" But obviously, Thursday Lang couldn't understand this, but seeing Man Bao's anxious face, he couldn't explain it clearly. He didn't argue, and responded with a helpless expression, but in his heart he decided to go back and tell his father that in the future, Man Bao's dowry bed had fallen. Man Bao collected the bark that Wu Lang had just peeled off, picked up a lot of fallen leaves and twigs from the ground, and grabbed a handful of soil, all of which were recorded by Keek. Thursday Lang and the others didn't notice it at all, because they found a few clumps of bamboo not far from the tree, and just now they saw a cumbersome bamboo rat burrowing into the bamboo clump. Bamboo rat. Bamboo rats look similar to squirrels. They look good when they are fat, and the most important thing is that they are delicious. So the three brothers of the Zhou family looked at each other, then left their younger sister, who was squatting on the ground trying to dig soil, and crept to the bamboo bushes. When Man Bao finally put away everything Keek wanted, when he looked up, he found that all three brothers were gone, and she was the only one under the tree. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 182. Man Bao blinked, turned his head to look around, and found that the three brothers had disappeared at all. She rubbed her dirty little hands and asked Keek, "Where are my brother and them?" Going to catch the bamboo rat. Keek also saw it at the time, and it added, "The bamboo rat is also an extinct animal, and I hope the host can include it." Man Bao had never seen a bamboo rat. He was startled when he heard the words. He jumped to the side of the big tree, leaned on it tightly, and asked, "Is the bamboo rat a mouse?" "No, the bamboo rat belongs to the bamboo rat family. It has a thick shape. The host can walk in the bamboo bushes. I scanned it and found that there are many bamboo rats in it." Man Bao found a stick on the ground and stepped forward. Man Bao waved a stick and beat on the ground, occasionally calling out to Shai Zulang and the others, but Shai Zulang and the others had gone somewhere. In the woods there were only her echoes and the occasional chirping of insects and birds. Nothing left. Keek directed Man Bao to go into the bamboo bushes and asked her to rummage through the big hole beside the bamboo roots. It presented the scanned scene in Man Bao's mind. Man Bao could see two bamboo rats lying not far from the roots of the underground bamboo. One of them was very large and was scratching his face lazily with his paws. Man Bao was a little scared at first, but seeing that he was chubby, he actually thought that the other party was a little cute. Man Bao squatted in front of the hole and didn't know what to do. She couldn't reach into the hole and grab it, right? Keek said, "Host, you can use smoke to force them out, and then I can help you catch them, but you must include at least one bamboo rat you catch." Manbao said there was no problem. Then, instead of looking for the three missing brothers, he pouted his butt and touched the dry weeds in the woods. After collecting a lot of dry leaves and dry weeds, Manbao bought a lighter from the mall. This was not the first time Manbao knew about this thing, but it was the first time he used it. Under the guidance of Keek, she reluctantly lit the fire, then placed the burning fire at the entrance of the cave, and when it was blown gently, the smoke drifted into the cave faintly. Manbao's eyes lit up, and he thought it would be fun to burn fire, so he kept adding firewood and dry grass to the hole. Keek doesn't stop it, because it only has theoretical knowledge, and it has never been burned. How can I know how to burn it properly? So under Manbao's greed, the fire that had only started not long after was tossed out by her, and then the smoke rose into the sky, and when Manbao fanned it again, the smoke spread out, causing Manbao's eyes to turn red. Of course, such a big smoke will rush out, and naturally it will also rush in. There is no entity, and Keek, who relies on scanning to see, is not affected at all. It sees fire and smoke spewing down from the hole, and the two animals in the hole are restless, and the first one will drill into the hole. Keek immediately gave a warning in Manbao's mind and shouted, "Come out." Manbao subconsciously took the stick in her hand to cover the hole, but only then did she put down her stick, and the hole filled with withered grass slammed open, knocking her stick away. Manbao didn't even think about it, he reached out and threw himself on it. She jumped directly to the ground, and the moment her finger touched the bamboo rat, Keek recorded it in the system. This series of actions was only completed, and a bigger fat bamboo rat sprang out of the hole, and Manbao came face to face with the bamboo rat before he could get up from the ground. Manbao on the opposite side was obviously very angry, and bamboo rat's IQ was not low. He first bared his teeth at Manbao, and then hunched his back to attack. Keek pointed at her, "Push up and grab it, as long as you can touch its body, I can pull it into the space." Manbao said there was no problem. At this time, she was so excited that she was no longer afraid. Manbao was half squatting, knowing that she might not be able to catch her, so she jumped forward, trying to use her body to complete the task. Bamboo Rat had been waiting for this for a while, and as soon as she moved, it rushed past with a squeak and flew out from under Manbao. However, Manbao's clothes touched the bamboo rat for a moment, and Keek put it into the space at that moment. Manbao watched the bamboo rat disappear out of thin air, and hurriedly looked at the things in the Keek space. He was happy to see the fat bamboo rat staying inside with a dumbfounded expression. She knew that it was impossible to tell others about Keek's existence, so she found a vine that she knew well, tied the bamboo rat, and then dragged it forward. She decided to go to her fourth brother and them. "Keek, where did they run to?" Keek said, "In the beginning, they ran to the southeast, but I don't know if they changed direction in the middle. It is recommended that the host stay in place and wait for their return. This is indeed the best way, but is Manbao a person who can sit still?" Of course not, so Manbao played on the spot, and seeing that Shiro and the others still hadn't come back, Manbao could only drag the bamboo rat to find them. While searching, he muttered, "Wouldn't they be carried away by wolves?" This is what the family used to scare her when she was a child. Because she heard about Dao when she was a child, Manbao firmly believed that there were wolves in the mountains. Manbao asked the squeaky bamboo rat to be quiet, and said, "When we find the fourth brother, we can go home to cook and eat, don't worry." Manbao walked further and further in, and occasionally shouted twice, but there was no response. She felt a little guilty, and walked forward for a while, but still found no one. She stopped, pursed her lips, and almost cried, "Keek, my fourth brother, and they are gone." Keek is also scanning, but the range it can scan is so wide that it can only comfort the host, otherwise, Let's turn around and go back, it's better to wait in place. Man Bao sniffed, shook his head and said, no, I'm going to find them, or I'll lose them. How can I explain to my parents when I go back at night? Keek secretly said, whoever loses who is not sure. Man Bao continued to drag the bamboo rat forward, and at this time, the three Shiro, who were chasing the bamboo rat all the way, were lying in front of the hole on the ground, thinking about making a fire to make the bamboo rat. Wu Wulang had already found another exit and shouted, I blocked it, make a fire. Saturday Lang was working hard to drill the wood. They didn't bring flint, so they could only make fire in this way. Fortunately, a few of them played often, and although the speed was a little slower, the fire was slowly started. The three brothers cheered and immediately fell on the ground and fanned the smoke into the hole. When the three of them finally baked the bamboo rat that was hiding in, they held it down again and then raised their heads with a smile on their face. Then Thursday's smile froze slightly, looked left and right, and asked, where is this? Wu Wulang, in the mountains, fourth brother, you are confused, aren't we here to see your mountain today? Thursday Lang's voice was a little dull, I know, I also know that he was with Man Bailey. Friday Lang and Saturday Lang couldn't help but froze and looked up around. On Thursday, Lang almost cried, so what about Man Bao? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 183. The three brothers quickly buried the fire, ran back with the bamboo rat, and ran back to the bottom of the big tree, only to see that the bottom was empty and there was no one. The three brothers of the Zhou family looked at each other and shuddered. This is in the mountains. With a pale face, Thursday Lang put the bamboo rat in the hands of Saturday Lang, and said, run home immediately. If you meet Man Bao on the way, bring her back. If you don't meet her, go home and call the big brother and the others to find her. Thursday Lang and Friday Lang said, we're looking for them separately. She can't sprint fast, so if you find someone, bring her back here. Both Friday Lang and Saturday Lang responded and ran away. Thursday Lang first looked around, and when he saw the extinguished fire in the bamboo bush, his eyes widened immediately. There was no such thing here before. So someone has been here? That full treasure. Chu Lang's feet softened, and the first thing that came to mind was to shoot Hanako. He was so excited that he didn't bother to look for it in the mountains, so he rushed down the mountain, wanting to follow the road to find someone. While calling out Man Bao's voice, Thursday Lang went down the mountain road to find it, and Wu Zhou Lang was already roaring in the mountains. He searched for a long time and didn't see anyone. He was anxious and angry, so he just stood still, and after getting angry in his dantian, he shouted to the sky, Man Bao. Tired of walking, Man Bao, who was squatting on the ground with a sad voice, heard a faint cry, and immediately jumped up from the ground. After listening for a while, he asked, Keek, did you hear someone calling me? Keek was silent for a while and then said, yes, in the west of the host. Man Bao turned around and asked, where is the west? Coco pointed her in a direction. Man Bao ran over there, the bamboo rat tied by the rope could only roll on the ground and be dragged forward. Man Bao ran for a while, and when he was too tired to walk, he shouted up to the sky, I'm here. Full treasure dash. I'm here. When Wu Wulang jumped and followed the sound to find him, Man Bao was already covered in mud on his body and face. There was nothing she could do. She dug a lot of mud for Keek. At that time, when she looked up and found that her brothers were gone, she didn't even bother to wipe her hands clean. After this paragraph, I wiped some of my face and clothes. Such a look is pitiful in Wu Wulang's eyes. Wu Lang ran up and hugged her, crying and laughing, where have you been, let's find out. Man Bao Zi burst out crying and said angrily, "I've been under the tree all the time, and it's you who disappeared." Wu Wulang was a little guilty. At that time, the bamboo rat ran past the bamboo bushes. They only saw the bamboo rat in their hearts, and they chased after them subconsciously. Where do they remember the little sister who was playing in the mud under the tree? Wu Wulang quickly apologized, hugged her and said, "It's all our fault, don't cry, and you will beat us to vent your anger." Man Bao cried a lot, gave him the bamboo rat tied to his hand, and asked, "Where are the fourth and sixth brothers?" Friday Lang was a little surprised to see the bamboo rat. "Where did you come from?" Hearing her question again, he shuddered and said with wide eyes, "It's over, the sixth will definitely tell his parents when he gets home." Wu Lang didn't bother to ask any further questions, so he squatted down and put Man Bao on his back, carried the bamboo rat and ran down the mountain, calling fourth brother as he ran. It's a pity that they couldn't hear Shiro's echo when he ran back under the big tree. Wu Wulang felt that he couldn't sit still, so he wandered around anxiously, and said after a while, "Let's leave a letter to the fourth brother, and then go home first." He rummaged through the bamboo, found a half-burned wooden stick, found a large leaf and wrote on it. Man Bao looked at her with her mouth wide open. "Yes, why is she so stupid? She could have left a letter to them earlier, she can write, and the Zhou brothers are also literate." Man Bao wiped his tears and blamed himself. "Keek, I'm so stupid." Coco remained silent. Wu Lang was anxious, and he had already written the letter sweating profusely. He pressed the big leaf under the tree, afraid that the fourth brother would not be able to see it. He also built a few stones beside him. After doing all this, he carried Manbao and ran home. "Be sure to stop Lao Lu before he gets home, otherwise." Thinking about it this way, Friday Lang spread his feet and ran very fast. At the same time, there was also Saturday Lang running fast to the house, but he still remembered the words of the fourth brother, and he wanted to see if there were any treasures on both sides of the road. So he ran and called Man Bao's name all the way. Occasionally, he had to stop and look for places where flowers and plants were lush, for fear of missing Man Bao. It took a lot of time to stop for a while, but Wu Wulang caught up. Wu Wulang ran out of breath, his throat was smoking, and he had no strength to speak. From a distance, Man Bao saw Saturday Lang running forward on his back, and she immediately shouted, "Sixth brother, brother six." On Saturday, Lang was running forward with his head buried in his head, and when he heard the sound, he stopped in his footsteps, and turned back subconsciously, and saw that Man Bao was lying on the back of fifth brother and waving at him. Saturday Lang's eyes brightened, he turned around and ran back. Finally, when the three brothers and sisters joined the division, Friday Lang sat down on the ground, only gasping for breath, and couldn't speak at all. On Saturday, Lang quickly supported him, while he went to check whether Man Bao was injured, and asked anxiously, "Where did you go? We thought you were lost, it scared me to death." Man Bao finds a mint for him to eat while giving Wu Lang shun gas. Friday Lang's mouth was dry, and the secretion of saliva accelerated after drinking sugar, which made him feel better. He waved his hand and said, "I found it in the mountains, she went to find us." Both brothers had the feeling of the rest of their lives, sitting on the ground panting. Saturday Lang also ran in a hurry, and his face turned pale. He reached out to Manbao, "I want to eat candy too." Manbao felt a little guilty, and felt that it was all because he was not smart enough to think of a way to leave a letter that made everyone so anxious. So what the brothers said at this time was what she said, and she quickly took out another piece of candy from her pocket and gave it to him. With sugar, the faces of the two brothers slowly improved. Wu Lang was out of breath, and then he had time to complain about Saturday Lang, "You are running too fast, don't you want to see both sides? In case the full treasure is there, where are you on both sides of the road? I've seen it all. It's so dangerous in the mountains. If I don't run, I'll tell my family quickly." What if Manbajan is taken away by a wolf? The two brothers sat with each other and sighed, and Wu Zhou asked, "Where's the fourth brother?" Saturday Lang waved his hand indifferently and said, "I'm still looking for him in the mountains. I didn't find him, but I left him a letter." He said, "I'm afraid you go back and tell your parents, we will definitely be beaten by then." Saturday Lang is also very fortunate, they are now at the entrance of the village, isn't it just a little bit? It was only then that Saturday Lang realized that the fifth brother was still holding a rope in his hand, and then there was a fat bamboo rat tied to the rope. He suddenly widened his eyes and asked, "Where did this bamboo rat come from?" Friday Lang looked at Manbao. "Yes, where did this bamboo rat come from?" Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 184. Manbao proudly puffed out his chest and said, "I caught it." Manbao explained in detail how she discovered the bamboo rat and how she used the fire to bake the bamboo rat. It was only then that Wu Wulang realized that she had started the half-burning fire in the bamboo. He was so frightened that he hurriedly searched her body. "Why do you bring flint? Where's the flint?" Manbao stayed silent for a while and didn't speak. Friday Lang searched and found none, so he breathed a sigh of relief. Lost. Manbao could only nod his head. Wu Wulang said solemnly, "You are not allowed to play with fire in the future. What should you do if you accidentally start a fire in the mountains?" Manbao said unconvinced, "Didn't you also make a fire? Can you be the same as us? We've all grown up." "How old are you?" Wu Wulang said solemnly. "In short, you are not allowed to play with fire in the future, especially in the mountains." Friday Lang was stern, and Manbao could only agree reluctantly, looking at where they came from and asking, "Why hasn't the fourth brother arrived yet?" Wu Wulang also looked at the road, slumped and didn't move. "Wait, he should have found the letter we left by now." The three sat and waited while talking. Saturday Lang reached out and pulled the two bamboo rats together. The two bamboo rats were chubby, and Saturday Lang pinched their necks and weighed them, guessing, "This one has at least 5 pounds, and this one has at least 6 pounds, which is more than chicken meat." Manbao dragged the bamboo rat all the way. At this time, he was no longer afraid of it. He heard the words and asked, "Is the bamboo rat delicious?" "Delicious, better than chicken and lamb." Manbao swallowed his saliva, a little suspicious. "Really? Of course it's true, you have eaten it too, but you probably forgot." On Tuesday Lang's mouth, most of the fields are bamboo. There are many bamboos in it, and there are many bamboo rats. Every autumn and winter, Wednesday Lang will take them to catch bamboo rats. I can always catch a few a year, but because the three sisters-in-law in the family were afraid of this thing, they all killed them by the river and brought them home. Manbao had never seen live ones, but they must have eaten them. Manbao's memory has always been good, but after Wu Wulang said this, she really remembered it, so her eyes became brighter when she saw the bamboo rat. She looked at the sky, and couldn't sit still. "Let's go home, kill the bamboo rat. It also takes time, anyway, the fourth brother is an adult, he must know the way home." As soon as Friday Lang thought about it, he got up dragging his aching legs and whispered to Manbao, "Manbao, you must not tell your family about the things you lost today, and don't talk about the fire, you know." Manbao understood and nodded fiercely, "I know, if we let my parents know, we will definitely be beaten." Friday Lang and Saturday Lang nodded, yes, they don't know if Manbao will be beaten, but the three of them must not escape. They are all here, and they are not in a hurry to go back. Manbao no longer let Wu Wulang carry it on his back, and walks forward on his short legs. Friday Lang and Saturday Lang pinched a bamboo rat each. The three brothers and sisters passed through the village, and the villagers who saw it were shocked. It was winter, and everyone had nothing to do all day long. When there was sunshine, they would go out to bask in the sun, so there were many people sitting on the side of the road in the village. The eyes of the villagers almost turned green when they saw the bamboo rat in the hands of Wu and Saturday. This is meat, or 2 lumps of meat. Goro, where did you catch this bamboo rat? Wu Wulang squeezed the bamboo rat tightly and said, go to my 4th brother's mountain to catch it? It's so far away, is there any more? Wu Wulang thought about it and said, there should be more, but there are only a few clumps of bamboo on the mountain of my 4th brother, and there are not many on the mountain at the entrance of the village. Uncle Jin's family is lucky this year. The 3 children can get 2 such fat bamboo rats when they go out. Yes, Man Bao, there is meat to eat again. The 3 brothers and sisters walked home with everyone's envy. Xiao Qian shivered when she saw bamboo rats. Although she also liked to eat them, she absolutely did not like to kill them, so she turned her head to the side and shouted directly at Zhou Dalin, who was in the room, Big Head, Daddy, come out. It was rare for Zhou Dalin to sleep late at home. When he heard the voice go out in a daze, what's the matter? Little Qian pointed at the bamboo rat in Wu Lang and the others' hands, quickly take it out and deal with it. When Zhou Dalin saw these 2 chubby bamboo rats, he was instantly refreshed, and he stepped forward happily. Where did it come from? Caught on the mountain of the 4th brother. Zhou Dalin took the bamboo rat and asked Zhou Zhoulang to come out with him. He said happily, let's go to the river to kill. By the way, where's the 4th child? Wu Wulang's eyes drifted to him, and he said with a guilty conscience, I'm behind, I should be back in a while. Zhou Dalin and the others didn't care either. Since Thursday Lang is an adult, he will never lose it. He didn't ask Wu Wulang and the others to intervene, and he and the 3rd child took the bamboo rat to the river and killed it. In the end, they waited until they came back with a clean bamboo rat, and Thursday Lang didn't come back. Xiao Qian had already steamed the rice. She glanced at the sky and frowned, it's almost time for dinner, why hasn't the 4th child come back? Friday Lang was also a little anxious. Quietly and Saturday Lang Manbao said, 4th brother didn't see the letter I left, right? Manbao was also anxious, and also whispered, how about we go back and look for it? Wu Wulang thought for a while and said, don't go, my 6th brother and I will go. Thursday Lang didn't know anything about it. He had always been in the middle of the half-burned fire, and he firmly believed that someone must have appeared there. He searched all the way along the avenue, and went to Beimaguan town. Shai Zuolang still did not find any trace of Manbao. He knelt directly on the ground, tears streaming down his face, and the fear in his heart almost drowned him. He wiped away his tears and hesitated for a while, then rushed into the town to find out, if the person who started the fire really took Manbao away and walked down the road, he would either go back to their village or come to Beimaguan town. There are many people in their village now, and walking with Manbao will definitely be discovered by the villagers, but coming to Beimaguan town is different. He had to ask if anyone had walked through town with Manbao. When Thursday Lang came out of the town, the sun was about to set on the top of the mountain. His legs trembled, but he didn't dare to stop, and ran back down the road. He plans to go back to the mountain and ask the 5th son to go home together, and ask the people from the village to come out and look for him. Looking at the sun that was about to go down on the horizon, Shu Yulang almost ran away desperately. The sun must not go down the mountain. When it gets dark, what will happen to Manbao Ke? Thursday Lang rushed back under the big tree, first shouted old 5 twice at the mountain, but he turned around without hearing an echo, and then he saw the stone under the tree. He hurriedly ran up to take a look. There was a large leaf beside the stone, a lot of mud fell on it, and there were paw prints that he didn't know what it was. But it's obvious. At this time, Shu Yulang had no energy to think about deeper things, so he just put Yezi in his arms and turned around and ran towards home. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 185. Friday Lang and Saturday Lang did not dare to let their family know, so they went out quietly to find Thursday Lang, but only when they walked to the entrance of the village, they saw Thursday Lang running back. The two of them were happy and immediately waved at Shiro Lang. "Fourth brother, are you back? Fourth brother, why are you so slow?" On Thursday, Lang Tong asked with red eyes, "Where's Man Bao?" "At home." On Thursday, Lang rushed home. When the bamboo rat turned into a pile of meat, Xiao Qian was no longer afraid of it, so he made it very fragrant. Man Bao felt very hungry when he smelled it, so he gathered around the dining table early in the morning and refused to leave. Chu Lang ran in from outside like a gust of wind, and when he saw Man Bao by the dining table, he rushed over and pulled her up and looked up and down. Man Bao was startled. Seeing his hair was disheveled and his eyes were red, he asked, "Fourth brother, what's the matter with you?" This question was like a switch. Thursel Lang, who had been trembling with fear all the time, burst into tears, and the big man sat on the ground with his butt on his back, crying with his mouth open without any image, with tears running down his nose. Old Zhou Tiou, who was sitting beside him smoking, shivered with fright and almost poked the cigarette rod into his eyes. Everyone in the Zhou family was stunned, and they were shocked to see Thursday, who was crying. On Thursday, Lang was frightened for half the afternoon, and his mind was full of what to do if Man Bao was taken away, and what should he do if Man Bao fell into the mountains and was taken away by a wolf. At this time, seeing the alive and intact Yao Mei, the fear in my heart finally found an outlet. The sequelae of non-stop running also appeared. His hands and feet were weak, and his fingers and toes were shaking slightly, but he was crying like he was wronged by the sky, and he didn't care about his image at all. Mrsgn ran out of the kitchen holding the spoon. Seeing him like this, he was angry and laughed, "What's wrong? Who bullied you?" However, Man Bao came back to his senses. She didn't think it was dirty. She put her hands on his head and patted his back to comfort him. "Fourth brother, don't cry, I'm fine." Sitting on the ground with his hands and feet spread out, Thursday Lang raised his head and cried like a shrew. When he cried out all the fear, and sadness in his heart, he returned rationally and choked back to his senses. To meet everyone's eyes on Thursday, Lang. Because he cried so hard, he couldn't stop sobbing for a while. He twitched, wiped a handful of tears, and looked at Man Bao pitifully. "Me, what's wrong with me?" Apparently, his cerebral cortex removed the image of rushing in and hugging Man Bao and crying. Old Zhou Tiou put the cigarette rod into his mouth again, and sighed faintly, "It's a sin, this marriage is even more difficult to talk about." After he cried out of the main house, Qianshi frowned and asked, "What are you crying for?" Thursday Lang lowered his head, shook his head, and said nothing. Zhou Hulang cried so loudly and miserably that it was difficult for his neighbors to pretend they couldn't hear him. At this time, a lot of people gathered outside Zhou's house, and some people asked, "Uncle Jin, what's wrong with your fourth child?" Others persuaded, "Brother Jin, just slap the butt a few times if the child is disobedient, but don't break the child." "Yeah, the fourth is about to say kiss, and save some face for the child." No wonder everyone was worried. This time, Thursday Lang's crying was worse than last year when he was beaten because he lost money in a bet. At that time, even though he was crying loudly and screaming miserably, everyone thought he was full of anger. But this time he cried, "Don't say it." Everyone who listened could hear his sadness and fear, so he couldn't help but care a few more words. Old Zhutu didn't expect that he was still carrying a black pot, and he stopped smoking in anger. He knocked on the cigarette rod and said, "Go out. Let's see if he beats him or not." On Thursday, Lang felt guilty and wanted to get up, but found that his hands and feet were weak and he couldn't get up. He looked at Man Bao and his brothers pitifully. Man Bao immediately protected him. "Father, the fourth brother is dirty, let him wash up first." Wu Lang and Saturday Lang also guessed that there must be some misunderstanding in the middle. The fourth brother may not have seen the letter they left, so he hurriedly stepped forward to help Shiro Lang, and said from left to right, "Yes, father, let's first take the fourth brother to wash." The two hurriedly helped Shiro to return to their room. If they want to go back to their own rooms, they have to leave the main room, and then go through the yard to the room under the firewood shed. At this time, there are many people around the yard, so the villagers all saw Shizuo Lang being killed by the two of them. The younger brother came out. Everyone sighed in their hearts. They all felt that the old Joe was too cruel. It was a big holiday. Manbao had to keep up with his short legs, but was grabbed by the old Zhutu. He frowned and asked her, "Why is your fourth brother crying?" Manbao said with a guilty conscience, "I'll ask the fourth brother now." Old Jotio looked at her suspiciously, "Did you guys do something bad today?" Manbao shook his head again and again, "No." Old Zhutu was not very good at such things as interrogation, especially the object was a little girl, so after asking a question, he looked at Qian at the door. Qian she looked at Manbao with deep eyes. Manbao grabbed the corner of his clothes, lowered his head and said nothing. The atmosphere in the room was a little stagnant for a while. Qian retracted his gaze and said, "Go ahead." Manbao felt as if he had been granted amnesty, turned around and ran to the fourth brother's room. The new house has been built, but because the bed has not been fully completed, the family has not moved in at this time, and Thursday Lang still lives in the thatched cottage with Friday Lang and Saturday Lang. Manbao got in, Zhou Lang had already washed his face, and Wu Zhou Lang was tying his hair thoughtfully. Because he cried so hard, his eyes were still a little red and swollen. When he saw Manbao coming in, he snorted and asked, "Where have you gone?" Although Manbao felt a little guilty, he felt that this was not her fault alone, so he said, "I was picking up leaves, and when I looked up, you were all gone. I called you, and you didn't answer me, so I went to find you." This time, Chu Hulang felt guilty. He paused and said, "If you get lost with us in the future, just stay where you are and don't move. Otherwise, when we come back to look for you, you are gone again, and no one will be able to find you." Manbao responded, "I should have left you a letter at the time, alas." Talking about this Thursday, Lang was angry, and said to Friday, "It's not good to leave a letter, and the leaves are all sticky. How did I know that there are still birds going back to peck at it?" Wu Lang blamed him, "Manbao was missing in the mountains, why did you go to Beimaguan town if you didn't look for it in the mountains? At that time, I saw a pile of half-burned dead leaves in the bamboo bushes. I thought someone took Manbao away. As long as I think of this Thursday, I can't help shivering, and I was patted away by Peiwazi. The children are basically never found. If Manbao was really taken away." Thursday's face turned pale and asked Manbao, "Who created the fire?" Manbao raised his small hand and whispered, "I was born." Thura. He suddenly let out a sigh of relief and lost the strength to speak. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 186. Thursday Lang ran a little hard, and when he stopped, not only did his hands and feet go weak, but his body trembled a little. He changed his clothes with difficulty and returned to the main room shaking his hands and feet. Old Zhutu had a black pot on his back, and was a little unhappy. When he saw him, he asked, "Why are you crying?" Thursday Lang blushed and bowed his head silently. Lao Zhutu couldn't help but patted the table. "What about you, say, did you get into trouble today?" Friday Lang and Saturday Lang were in a hurry, but they couldn't think of a good excuse. On Thursday, Lang babbled for a long time, and finally stabbed his neck and said, "No, I'm just sad." "What are you sad about?" "Some food and some clothes. You will enter the new house in 2 days." "What are you sad about?" Manbao hurriedly said, "The fourth brother is not married to a wife." The old Zhutu glanced at her, and then said, "Don't you have a wife? You are only 18, what's the hurry?" After he finished speaking, he said, "It's hard for you to marry a daughter-in-law. It's even more difficult to cry like this. You look like a man, do you? Who wants to marry a girl to a crying bag?" Old Joe was so angry that he caught him and scolded him. He didn't stop until the daughters-in-law made dinner and brought the dishes. Although there was meat to eat tonight, everyone ate very quietly. Joe Dallin expressed a rare brotherly love to Thursday Lang and gave him a piece of meat. Tuesday Lang and Wednesday Lang also expressed their friendship to him, and both gave him a piece of meat. Thura. Friday and Saturday, what if we want to cry too? Man Bao also diligently gave him a piece of meat from his bowl, and then he buried himself in the meal. Mentioning the marriage of Thursday Lang, before going to bed at night, the old Zhutu couldn't help but ask Qianxi, the matchmaker didn't introduce it again if it didn't work out before. Qianxi glanced at Man Bao, who was hiding behind the screen with a guilty conscience, and said, "You really believe what they say? Do you think the fourth child is someone who is anxious to marry a daughter-in-law? He's not too young, so it's time to worry." Qian said, "The matchmaker later mentioned another family, but it was too good. I didn't dare to mention it, for fear that the fourth of our family wouldn't be worthy of other people's daughters." "Whose family?" "The little girl of the butcher's family in Dali village." When old Joe thought about it, his family was really unworthy of others. Why did the matchmaker mention his family? It can't be that his family has a crush on our fourth child, right? Qian said, "The Fang family may not have liked it, but the little girl of the Fang family has liked it." She smiled and said, "The fourth child is not bad." This year, because he bought meat, he often went to the big fair. It is estimated that the Fang family couldn't stand the little girl's mention, so he mentioned it to the matchmaker. Of course, Qianxi could guess this, but it was also revealed by the matchmaker intentionally or unintentionally. Although she didn't say it clearly, the meaning was revealed. It was the little girl of the Fang family who took a fancy to Thursday, and the parents couldn't bear the child's begging, so they mentioned it to the matchmaker. Qianxi has always been self-aware, and the marriage talks are about the right family, so she just listened to it, and didn't plan to tell the little girl of the Fang family to Thursday. Old Zhou Tiou was silent for a while and said, "Then take the children to see if you have time." Qianxi frowned. There is a big difference in family circumstances. It's not too big, their Fang family is relatively rich, but our Zhou family still has scholars. Old Zhutu was very confident in his family. He said, "Now several children have followed Man Bao to recognize words, which is in the there is only one share in the villages and villages. Don't you want to find a powerful wife for the fourth child? I think the Fang family is good, and the daughter-in-law is full of confidence. If the fourth child is confused in the future, it will be easy to clean up." Qianxi was thoughtful. Man Bao hid on the bed, silently mourning for the fourth brother in his heart. Early the next morning, she slipped out of bed and ran to find Thursday Lang to inform her. Of course, she would not tell him about his parents' plans, but happily told him, "Fourth brother, mother is going to kiss you again." Thursday Lang slept all night and his condition improved. Hearing this, he yawned and asked, "Whose girl is that? You must like my sister this time." Thursday Lang was refreshed and asked, "Why? Isn't she very beautiful? Have you seen it before?" Man Bao said, "I haven't seen it, but you must have seen it. Her family has a lot of meat." Thursday Lang blinked and asked, "What do you mean her family has a lot of meat?" "Because her family is a butcher," Man Bao said, "my biggest wish when I was a child was to become a butcher, so that I would have meat to eat every day. Fourth brother, my wish cannot be fulfilled, but you can. Father-in-law is also father." Shiro pondered for a while, and found that it was really true. His eyes gradually brightened and he asked, "Which girl from the butcher's family?" Man Bao said, It seems to be the surname Fang. Thursday Lang's eyes brightened, and he sat up from the bed immediately. It's her. The little lady of the Fang family, he is very familiar. This year, because Manbao had a lot of wealth, he often gave him money to buy meat. Unless he went to the county seat, he would have bought it in Dajalai. As for mutton and pork, he prefers to buy mutton, and of course, mutton is more filling. There are only 2 meat stalls in Daji, one sells mutton, the other sells pork, and the Fang family sells mutton. Sometimes when Chu Yulang went to buy meat, Uncle Fang was not there, and the little lady of the Fang family was watching the stall. After going back and forth, the two of them became familiar with each other. Because he was an acquaintance, Thursday Lang rarely blushed, and asked Manbao, "You heard clearly, is it the little lady of the Fang family?" Manbao nodded and asked, "Is she good looking?" Thursday Lang twisted, "That's it?" But his eyes were shining. He stopped lying down, and simply got up. "Did mother say when to go on a blind date? Are we going, or are they coming to our house?" "I'll help you ask." Manbao turned around and was about to run. Thursday Lang hurriedly grabbed her and said, "What are you asking?" "It's a matter for adults to decide." "Ahem, just listen to what your parents have to say. Mother said that you are not worthy of the little lady of the family. Dad said that you can give it a try. Maybe people will like you." Thursday Lang reached out and covered her mouth. "Okay, you don't have to say it." Sure enough, dogs can't spit ivory out of their mouths. Chu Yulang found out his best set of clothes and put on it, thought about it, and said to Manbao, "Why don't you ask your mother?" Manbao snorted and turned away. Chu Yulang scratched his head and walked out with her with his head down. Manbao was unreliable, but Thursday Lang got his heart on his own and began to pay attention to his mother's movements. This attention revealed the problem. After all, Qianxi still listened to what Lao Zhutu said, and asked a matchmaker to come over. The two talked in the house for a while and the matchmaker left. Then she came back in the afternoon. After eating, Qian said to Thursday Lang, "Tomorrow you and I will go to Dali village to buy some meat and come back to make meat buns." Manbao immediately said, "I'll go too." Qianxi lowered his head and said with a smile, "Okay, Manbao will go with us." Thursday Lang was a little excited and glanced at Manbao. "Why are you everywhere?" Yunkai is a website, and like the starting point, it is a reading website under China Reading. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 187. The winter solstice has a 3-day holiday, and this day is the last day. Manbao found out his best set of clothes and put on it, happily holding his mother's hand to go to Dali village. After Qian's health was poor, he seldom left the village, but walking was not difficult, as long as he took his time and didn't walk so fast. The matchmaker had already greeted the Fang family. She was waiting at the entrance of Dali village. When she saw the Zhou family, mother and son, they went up to meet them. She smiled and said to the Qian family, "The little lady of the Fang family is at the meat stall today, and the lady will be there. Take a look, and let the Fang family take a look at Shiro. Qian should go." This time, the blind date still has sufficient excuses, and only when both parties are satisfied will they formally communicate. This time, because we were meeting outside, Shiro didn't have the courage, so long as he didn't want to be warm, so he was wearing his own clothes. However, he washed his head and carefully washed his face early in the morning. At this time, he was refreshed and looked very much like that. Not to mention Manbao, even Qianxi couldn't help but look at her son more. She gave birth to 6 sons, among which the 4th and 6th are the best. But the Zhou family is not bad. Didn't she just like Zhou Jin's face back then? Ahem, Qian's face turned a little red, and he led his son and daughter to the meat stall. Today, there are many people in the meat stall of Fang's family. Not only Butcher Fang is there, his wife Cheng is also there, his eldest son Fang Dalan is also there, and Mrs. Fang, the real master, is also there. So people who come to buy meat are curious. Lao Fang, why are there so many people in your family today? Butcher Fang coughed uncomfortably and said, isn't this a holiday? There are many people who come to buy meat, let them help. Much. It's just a little more than usual, so there aren't so many people coming, right? It's just that before he had time to ask questions, Butcher Fang suddenly slammed the boning knife into the wooden board, which startled him. It was not only him who was frightened, but also Shiro, who took the money to buy meat. He was frightened by Butcher Fang, and then under his piercing eyes, he stepped forward. I'll buy 2 kilograms of meat. Butcher Fang went up and down, looked at him from side to side, then pulled out the boning knife and asked, which piece of meat to buy? Thursalang stared at the knife and swallowed, buy tendons. Qianshi held Man Bao's hand and stood aside, watching with a smile. Butcher Fang slowly cut the meat and asked, which village are you from? Why do I feel so familiar? Shiro Lang didn't speak yet, and the people who were waiting for the meat shop laughed and said, Old Fang, what kind of memory do you have? It's Thursday in Kilai village. He is a regular customer of your meat stall, and he comes every 3 or 5 minutes. You buy meat, you can't remember it? Butcher Fang. Thura. The blushing little lady Fang stepped forward, grabbed the knife from her father's hand, and said, Father, let me cut it. She cut the meat for the person next to her neatly first, and when it was Thursalang's turn after receiving the money, she also dawdled and did not cut the meat immediately. Only then did Qian's hold Man Bao's hand and approached her. Little lady is really capable, does she often show the stall to the family? Cheng Shi finally had a place to use it. She immediately pushed her husband aside, and went up to talk to Qianshi. No, my family is small, I only have 1 son and 2 daughters, her eldest sister has long been married, and the family when she's too busy, she's there to help. Cheng said with a smile, I was angry with her father before. A good girl, let her come to the meat stall. It's bad for her reputation. Who would be willing to kiss her? Qianshi smiled and said, I know so much about the girl who cares for her family, how come no one wants to kiss her? Isn't it just watching the stall, it's like going to the ground. Isn't it? I figured it out later, my daughter has no other benefits, she just works quickly. Mrs. Cheng praised her daughter again, and then looked at Thursday Lang, sister-in-law, this is your son is so handsome. Otherwise, her daughter wouldn't take a fancy to him, and she had to talk about him. Qianshi smiled and said, yes, this is the 4th boy of my family, and he has a good face. I have many sons in my family, so it is more difficult, but fortunately he is not lazy, otherwise I will be worried to death. That's how the topic opened. Man Bao was short, only as tall as the meat stall's chopping board. Standing next to Qian's only a small head was exposed, so she watched the 2 mothers go back and forth like this. Cheng, my family has few children, so don't look at my youngest daughter as a daughter, but our family is in pain. Qian, my family has no other strengths, that is, there are many children, and none of them are cowards. The 4th child is not particularly good, but not bad. Cheng, my daughter can go to the hall, go to the kitchen, and even sell meat and watch the farm. Qian, my 4th oldest can farm, fish, and do business. He has a sweet mouth and can bear hardships and stand hard work. Cheng, my daughter is obedient. Qian, my son is filial and courteous. Cheng, my daughter is not bad looking. Qian, my son is handsome. The 2 mothers went back and forth. Man Bao's little head turned around. Shu Yulang watched from the side, for fear that she would turn her head away. In the end he couldn't hold back and stretched out his hand to hold her head. Don't let her turn. Miss Fang kept listening with a blushing face, and kept secretly watching Thursday Lang. She noticed it as soon as Thursday Lang stretched out his hand. She looked down and saw Man Bao. She blinked and asked, "This is?" Thursel Lang immediately retracted his hand and whispered, "This is my sister." Man Bao stood on tiptoe to make himself look taller. "Sister, my name is Man Bao." Miss Fang smiled at her. "Hello Man Bao, you are so cute." "Lovely, you didn't find me the first time." But Man Bao is a polite and good boy, so he praised back, "Sister, you are also very beautiful, fourth brother, don't you think?" Madame Fang looked at Shiro. Shira blushed and nodded as the two girls watched. Naturally, the movement here could not be concealed from Cheng and Qian, who were on the side. The communication between the two also came to an end for the time being. Mrs. Cheng hated that iron was not steel. She felt that her daughter was too impatient, and she should be a little reserved even if she liked others. Qian Shi also hates his son a little bit. Your sister has opened up the topic for you, so you should praise others a few more words at this time. But they couldn't talk any longer, because they had been standing here for too long, and someone had noticed and came over. Qian took the money to buy meat. Cheng also simply took the knife from her daughter and cut the meat for them. The money and goods were received. The two mothers looked at each other, smiled slightly, and then went their separate ways. Qian took the two children home. Thursday Lang scratched his head and wanted to ask, but he couldn't speak well, so he could only look at Man Bao frequently. Man Bao still remembered his hatred for pressing her head, so he didn't see it. Qian decided to go back home and talk to the fourth child in detail, so he glanced at him and said, "It's all adults, why are you still so irritable? Let's talk about it when we get home." As soon as he got home, the old Zhou yelled at Shiro Lang, "Kneel down for me." Thursday Lang was startled, and he was about to refute when he jumped up, but as soon as he looked up, he saw Wu and Saturday Lang kneeling in the yard. With a shocking thunderclap, he seemed to have thought of something. The legs he stepped out didn't dare to run, squeak kneeling to the ground. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 188. Man Bao drooped his head and knelt beside Saturday Lang. Old Zhou Tiou was so angry that he walked back and forth in front of the four of them. One of the old Zhou's family was counted as one, and they were all watching in the yard. This is the first time that Man Bao has been punished by Lao Zhutu on his knees. In the past, Qian Shi punished her for her mistakes, and Lao Zhutu was responsible for interceding. But this time, the old Zhutu was very angry, and without waiting for Qian to do it, he punished Man Bao first. Of course, Qian Shi would not intercede for them. At this moment, she moved a chair and sat at the door, looking at the four of them with a sullen face. The four of them were so frustrated, but they were guilty of wrongdoing and didn't dare to refute, so they had to kneel and listen to whatever the father said, and be disciplined honestly. Life is always full of surprises, and Man Bao feels that what Keek said is still very reasonable. For example, yesterday they thought they had escaped the catastrophe, but they didn't expect it to happen today. Speaking of which, it's all my fault. Saturday Lang also knew it was his own problem, so his head was lower than the other three, and his waist was more bent. But Lao Zhutu obviously didn't think so. He mainly scolded Shiro Lang, "Your brothers and sisters are small, are you still young? They are all people who are going to get married, and you can leave your sister in the mountains. Thanks to the blessing of God, your sister is fine. If she gets lost in the mountains and can't be found, or gets carried away by a wolf." Old Zhutu felt a pain in his heart just thinking about it, and he could hardly breathe. He was so angry that he kicked at Thursday Lang, kicked the person out, and gasped and asked, "How do you want me to see you?" "Okay," Qian cut off his words, and said with a sullen face, "4 people, all beat 10 sticks, the fourth, you are the biggest, you are not allowed to eat tonight, just kneel here." Thuro lowered his head and did not dare to refute. Man Bao was so frightened that he didn't expect his parents to be so angry. Zhou Dalin found a bamboo stick and came out. Zhou Dalan was annoyed. When he was full of treasure, he hid his ass. The movement was very light, and it only made her feel pain. Imprints come. Obviously, he was also angry. Manbao was so frightened that he cried, climbed up and pleaded with Lao Zhutu, "Father, I know it's wrong, don't beat your brothers." Old Zhou snorted at her and said, "Manbao, you are not too young. You are 7 years old after the new year, and it is time to grow up. There are wolves in this mountain, can you run around?" The old Zhutu said, "If you are taken away by the wolf, you will never see your father, mother, and brother again, and it will bite off your hands and feet, eat it, then you will lose your hands and feet. No more heads." How to say how terrifying the old Zhutu was, Manbao was stunned for a moment, and for a moment forgot to plead for his 3 brothers. Lao Zhutu directly stretched out his hand and pulled her up, saying, "The 3 of them are not allowed to eat tonight." Manbao has a lot of love in his heart, and the first time he eats, it is not fragrant. Because it was winter, Lao Zhutu thought that they would have to spend money to buy medicines when they were sick, so he did not let them kneel for a long time, and drove them up and went back to sleep as soon as it got dark. The 3 brothers were hungry, so they could only go to the kitchen to find some water to drink, tighten their belts and go back to the room to sleep. Manbao was stared at by Lao Zhutu all the time, trying to sneak 2 candies for them. In the end, she sobbed and fell asleep in a daze. She slept, but Lao Zhutu didn't. He looked for his 3 sons with a sullen face. On Thursday, Lang led his 2 younger brothers to stand in front of the bed and continued the training. "You little uncles only have this drop of blood," Lao Zhutu said in a low voice. "How much effort did the family spend to keep her alive? I told you since I was a child, to protect her, you are not allowed to go to dangerous places, just throw her into the mountains, you want the lives of me and your mother, don't you?" Thursday Lang wiped away his tears, lowered his head and did not speak, and Wu Wu and Saturday Lang did not dare to move. When old Zhou saw it, the breath in his chest finally dissipated a lot. "Thinking that the 4th child came back and cried like that yesterday, I guess I was too scared." After thinking about it this way, the anger finally dissipated. He smoked a cigarette and said after a long silence, "Don't do this kind of thing again in the future, okay? Go to the kitchen and boil some water yourself." Thursday Lang didn't expect his father to say such a sentence at the end, and raised his head in surprise. The old Zhutu glared at him and said, "Tomorrow, you will go to my grave to pull weeds and plead guilty." Thursday Lang bowed his head in response. As soon as the father left, the 3 brothers sneaked into the kitchen to find them. On Saturday, Lang turned over 3 black buns on the innermost side of the stove, and knew that they were reserved for them by the sister-in-law. The 3 were hot, they squatted in the kitchen and ate together. I thought it was over like this, but in the middle of the night, Manbao became hot. She was the first to find out that because Manbao was crying in a dream, she got up to comfort her, but when she touched her forehead, she was startled, and hurriedly shook Lao Zhou's head awake. Qian touched her forehead and quickly asked Lao Zhutu to boil the water. She couldn't help complaining, "The child is fine, what are you doing to scare her?" Old Zhutu also regretted, "She has always been courageous, how did I know she was scared?" Then I couldn't help blaming Saturday Lang, "It's all my fault, Lao Lu, this bastard. Everything was hidden, and it was revealed to me. Saturday Lang, it's wrong to hide it, and it's wrong to hide it now. There are many children in the Zhou family, and fever is a common occurrence. They not only use conventional cooling methods, such as drinking more hot water, covering a quilt and sweating, etc., but also reserve fever-reducing medicinal materials." After finding that watering was useless, Manbao couldn't sweat, and his body was still hot, MRSGN asked Xiao Qian to boil the medicine. As a result, until it was almost dawn, Manbao still did not sweat a single drop, and the temperature naturally did not drop. Qian couldn't help crying. High fever can kill people, especially at Man Bao's age, over 6 years old, it's very dangerous. She said to Zhou Dalan, go ask a doctor. If the sun doesn't go down, send people to the county seat. Zhou Dalan responded quickly and ran to Dali village. Man Bao only took less medicine in the past 2 years. In the past, he was basically in the company of medicine. The doctor in Dali village was very familiar with her. When he saw Zhou Dalan in such a hurry, he didn't care if it was dark. Was woken up. He quickly packed the medicine box and went with him. When he arrived at Zhou's house, he saw that the child's face was red with burning, and she was constantly wiping her forehead and palms with a warm towel. The doctor looked at it and asked, it's getting hotter. Mrs. Jian nodded, her eyes reddened and said, the front is not so hot yet. I heard from you that you have been giving her warm water, but the temperature has been rising. I didn't dare to apply a cold towel, so I kept wiping her with warm water. The doctor nodded, checked Man Bao's eyes and tongue, took another pulse, and couldn't help frowning. This is caused by the entry of wind evil into the body, and the palpitation. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 189. This is an emergency. The doctor hurriedly opened the medicine box to get medicine for them, and said, boil 3 bowls of water into 1 bowl of water and use a large fire. At this time, I was in a hurry, and I didn't care to turn the fire. The doctor then took a needle and gave Man Bao acupuncture to reduce the fever. The child was burning badly, her lips were white, and her little body was trembling. Qian covered her with the quilt, pulled off her clothes and let the doctor put the needle. Old Zhutu was so annoyed that he wanted to slap himself. He was busy until the sun came out, and then Man Bao closed his eyes and cried out. His breath was hot and his voice was very low. Qian reached out and touched her back, and when she touched the water in her hand, she froze. She couldn't help crying, hugged her tightly and coaxed, okay, we're sweating, we'll be full of treasures. Man Bao cried in distress, closed his eyes and cried, there are wolves. No, there is no wolf, the mother is here, it dare not come. Yes, Lao Zhutu said quickly, Dad is also here, I'll kill it as soon as it comes, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. The doctor looked at Man Bao's tongue coating again, and said, it's fine if you sweat, cover it carefully, and replace with a few more dry towels, so that she won't let her absorb any more sweat. The doctor took the medicine box and left them 2 medicines, 1 a day, 1 can be boiled twice. He carried the medicine box on his back, and then looked at Lao Zhutu, don't scare the child if it's okay, children under the age of 8 are hard to stand, they shouldn't be scared, and you scare her on purpose. Lao Zhutu looked ashamed, nodded and bowed to send the old doctor out, and then asked Zhou Zhoulang to use a scooter to send the person back to Dali village respectfully. Man Bao was sweating all over, and Qian kept feeding her warm water to replenish her moisture. In the end, Man Bao's hair was wet, and she groaned uncomfortably. She stretched her calf and was about to kick the quilt off. Qian she dared to let her kick the quilt, so she covered it tightly and said, wait a little longer, if you don't sweat, mother will change your clothes for you. Then feed her water. Man Bao drank a lot of water and didn't want to drink any more, so he turned his head to one side and cried softly, no more, no more. Drink a little more, Qian said. You've sweated so much, and your fever hasn't completely subsided, so you need to drink a little more. Man Bao was not happy, and kept his mouth tightly closed. Qi couldn't help but said, it is recommended that the host drink water. Your body temperature is still 37 degrees 8. You once burned to 39 degrees 8, which is very dangerous. Until now, Keek still has lingering fears, for fear that the host will die before she can grow up, and she lost consciousness for a while. Keek has already searched the mall for antipyretic medicine, and will buy medicine instead of her as long as the host's vital signs trigger the alert value. Fortunately, the situation did not deteriorate to that point. Because the future medicine is quite different from the current technology, even if it is just an antipyretic medicine, the required points are huge. Although the host can afford the points now, she will definitely feel distressed afterwards. Therefore, Keek said bluntly, if the host can't reduce the fever and cause the disease to recur, I'm afraid I can only buy medicines in the mall. Do you know how many points a fever reducer costs? Keek showed her the search page very simply. Man Bao, who closed his eyes tightly, opened his eyes, looked at the points in a grievance, got up from the bed, and drank all the warm water in the bowl with Qian's help. Although Qian she didn't know why she suddenly became obedient again, it was also a good thing. She happily coaxed softly, our Man Bao is really good obedient child, just drink water for a while. Before he turned 7 years old, Man Bao felt that he had to worry about spending money. It was really too difficult. It was a rare time that Man Bao, who didn't want to grow up, drank half a bowl of water in a sad mood, and then covered his stomach and said he wanted to pee. Qian she wrapped her in her coat and hugged her. When the sun could shine in through the window, Man Bao's fever finally subsided. Qian allowed her to take a bath in the room, and then stuffed her under the quilt, daring not to let her feel a little cold. Even breakfast is eaten in bed. Maybe it was because Man Bao had been frail since childhood, or maybe it was because she was frightened by her illness. The Zhou family was very careful with her. I specially cooked lean meat porridge for her, but she was not allowed to get out of bed until it was time for dinner to confirm that she could really jump around, so she stood at the door of the main room for a while. But not long after, she was stuffed back into the house after dinner, and the next day, she still couldn't go to school. So Bai Shanbao came to see her with a box of snacks. Afraid that the young master of the Bai family might get sick, the Qian family did not let Bai Shanbao into the house, but let them talk through a window. Bai Shanbao happened to see Xiao Qian's carrying a bowl of dark concoction into it, and he said to Man Bao sympathetically, "You are so pitiful, how many days do you need to take medicine?" Man Bao was accustomed to taking medicine in his memory, and said, "I think I'm fine, but my mother and the others just think I'm not fine, but my medicine is only up to today, and I must go to school tomorrow." "What if they don't let you go out?" Bai Shanbao clearly understood, "they will lock you in the house." "Then I'll escape, will you help me then?" "Okay," Bai Shanbao asked excitedly, "how are you going to escape?" Unfortunately, before they had time to plan, Xiao Qian brought the concoction to the bed, and Man Bao could only drink the medicine before discussing the escape plan with him. It's a pity that before Man Bao could escape the next day, Qian first mentioned the idea of sending her to school. "You have 2 days off, and it's time to go to school today." Man Bao and Bai Shanbao were still a little disappointed to be able to go to school without escaping, but after this incident, Man Bao was much more obedient, and regretted it only in his heart. Although it actually only burned for a day, the Zhou family still dared not ignore it, and have always followed the doctor's instructions carefully, not giving her spicy and greasy food, so for 10 consecutive days, although Man Bao ate finely, the meat was only thin. The minced meat, mostly vegetables, made Man Bao, who had not eaten too much meat for a year, very sad, and even the egg water that he hated every morning seemed delicious. Even Mr. Zhuang felt that the young apprentice was much paler, and he paid extra attention to his studies, and did not assign her homework for several days. When she finally turned ruddy or jumped up and down, the family relaxed the control in this area, and she finally had the opportunity to ask the fifth brother why they happened to the public. Friday Lang looked at Saturday Lang. Saturday Lang twisted, "It's a long story." Chuyo Lang rolled his eyes and said, "How long does it grow?" "As long as we go out for half a day, where can we grow? He said to Man Bao, don't ask him, De Liang has already told me. This kid went out to brag, saying how he caught the bamboo rat, and if others didn't believe it, he said that you can even catch a bamboo by yourself. As for the mouse, can he catch it? When I get better, I must eat and drink, even if I gain 10 pounds, I am willing to. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 190. Is bamboo rat delicious? That's for sure. Even the little Qianxi, who was afraid of it, thought it was better than chicken, let alone the villagers. But this thing is not easy to grasp, especially in the bamboo forest. It can disappear after slipping, and it can drill through bamboo holes and underground holes, and the speed is fast. Unless they're lucky enough to be able to plug them in a shallow or one porthole like Thura and the others. That day, Wu Lang and the others came back with 2 bamboo rats. The next day, the villagers went to the bamboo forest on the mountain to look for the bamboo rats, but they didn't even see their shadows in the morning. They had no choice but to go down the mountain. When they saw that Saturday Lang was playing with his friends, they called him over to talk and asked how they caught the bamboo rat. Saturday Lang was only 13 years old this year, and he was at the age of bullshitting. But he didn't believe it. In a hurry, he revealed that Man Bao had caught a bamboo rat himself. The villagers are even more unbelievable. How old is Man Bao? Can she run with her short legs in the mountains? With this question, Saturday Lang explained how they went to chase the bamboo rat, and how they came back to find Man Bao, who had a bamboo rat tied to his hand. At that time, Lao Zhutu was standing behind the crowd. At first, he listened to his son's bragging with relish, but it was incredible when he heard it later. Up to now, not only Thursday Lang and Friday Lang blame him for slipping, but even Lao Zhou blames him for his big mouth. I think if it wasn't for his big mouth to let this happen, he wouldn't punish Man Bao to kneel and whipped her with a bamboo stick, then she wouldn't be infested with evil spirits. He wouldn't scare her, then she wouldn't. There will be palpitations, and there will be no fever in the back. So old Zhutu was so angry that for 5 days in a row he asked him to follow Jojo to open up wasteland. No, all the brothers in the Zhou family were implicated, and they all told the old Zhutu to drive out and open up the wasteland for the 3rd child. Wednesday Lang has already decided to open a piece of land, and after he is free from winter, he will start to mow grass and dig trees and collect stones in the field. Of course, Zhou Dalin and his brothers all carried hoes to help when they were free, but they didn't go there often because the family was composting. Next year, the family will add 20 mu of land, which will require a lot more fertilizer, so it is said to be winter leisure, but there is no real leisure day. They needed a lot of composting, so at most a few brothers took over Zhou Lang's work, so that he could go to wasteland. But when the old Zhutu was angry, he simply stopped them from being a cat. He woke up before dawn every day after recovery, finished his housework, went to compost in the morning, and went to the fields to help the 3rd child open up wasteland in the afternoon. It was obviously winter time, but it was more tiring than the busy farming season. Not only the miners of Shizuolang, but even the master who benefited from Shizuolang felt a little overwhelmed. But the old man was angry, obviously no one dared to be disobedient. So, time passed by, and when they sorted out the wasteland, hoed it again, and sprinkled fertilizer to support the land, the new year was almost here. Then, Thuro was about to get engaged. Life is full, and Man Bao, who has endless things to do every day, was stunned when he heard that his mother said that he was going to prepare a betrothal gift for the engagement. She widened her eyes and asked, "Mother, who is my 4th sister-in-law?" "It's the little lady of the Fang family. You've seen it before, don't you remember?" Man Bao was stunned. "When did you guys agree? Why don't I know?" Qian Shile said, "It's not that you are marrying a daughter-in-law. Why do you want to participate in every step? Your 4th brother just needs to know." Man Bao looked at Shiro Lang, and when he saw the happy look on his face, he asked, "Fourth brother, so you always knew?" "I know." Shu Yulang glanced at her and said, "If it weren't for your illness, we would have gotten married long ago. Maybe we could have gotten married a year ago." She glanced at him and said, "You treat it as a parent to play a family. As soon as you're sure you can have a banquet? Go, go, don't put everything on your sister's head." But in fact, it has something to do with Manbao. At that time, when the two families saw each other together, the Fang family was reluctantly satisfied with the Zhou family, but the girl couldn't bear it, and her daughter was very satisfied with Thursday, so they did not reject the matchmaker. The Qian family was also very satisfied with the other lady. She felt that the girl was generous and courageous, and she made up her mind, so she told the matchmaker. One didn't refuse, and the other was intentional. The matchmaker knew that it was likely to happen, so the two sides ran a little more diligently. The 2 days when Manbao was sick, Qian couldn't take it out, but as soon as Manbao recovered, Qian took Shizalang to Dali village again. This time, it was fair and square to talk about their relatives. Qian and Cheng formally stated the situation of the two families to make it clear, which was regarded as a formal intention. After that, Thursday Lang can often go to Fang's house to perform. However, because of Lao Zhou's arrogance, he rarely finds time to come, and he can only go to Dali village every 2 or 3 days. Or find Mrs. Fang for a walk on the road, or go to Fang's house to work. As a prospective son-in-law to be inspected, going to work at Yu's house is also part of the inspection, which is a customary rule at the moment. At least in the village. When the Fang family knows enough about the person Thursday Lang, the Zhou family will decide whether or not to marry their daughter to each other. But to be able to get to this point, unless the man's performance is really bad, it can usually be done. However, during that time, the Zhou brothers all went out early and returned late, and Manbao was addicted to schoolwork and couldn't extricate himself, so he didn't know about these things. She didn't know that the candy she gave to the fourth brother out of guilt was finally given to the little lady Fang by him, and it became the sweet snack of the fourth sister-in-law in the future. After a month of investigation, the Fang family finally agreed to the Zhou family's proposal when the matchmaker came to propose marriage for the second time, and the date was officially set. So next, the Zhou family will prepare the dowry, and then choose a date to get married. However, Qian made an estimate and felt that the probability of getting married before the year was not high, and after the year. Qian thought for a while and said, "I didn't let the new daughter-in-law rush to the door in a hurry, so I'd better wait for the spring seed before marrying, and let the little lady rest for a while." Old Zhou nodded, "Then choose a date in May. At that time, the spring is busy and the weather is just hot, so the new daughter-in-law will have 2 months to adapt to the door." This is naturally the parents' decision, and no one has any opinion. Qian's plan was passed on to Fang's family through a matchmaker, and Cheng's family couldn't help but say to Butcher Fang, "The Zhou family is really a kind family, although it was a little bit short on Thursday, but the in-laws are sensible, and Niu's life will be better in the future." Son. Butcher Fang nodded and said with satisfaction, "As soon as Niu said she was interested in Thursday, I asked someone to inquire." None of their 3 daughters-in-law entered the door in time for the new year, they were all after the autumn harvest. Entering the door, our second girl didn't catch up with the good time, but this day is not too bad. There is still a long way to go to cultivate immortals. Now that the inspection has just passed, the wind is still very tight, so, as you know, the book review area of the website is not yet open, so we have to be a little reserved.